You know what this is? This is the Nyon display. I know a lot of people have been waiting for this in the US, and there's been a lot of excitement over the old Nyon display. Like, it never came here. Everybody was so upset about it. But we got this one. And I got this one. I'm, the first one in the States to actually be able to do a little video review of it. I'm pretty excited and honored to have that opportunity. But yeah, I got this a couple days ago. This is the new display. It's got navigation. This is a production unit. And I'm going to be walking through how it all works. The Nyon, what is it? It's a Bosch display. It's made for Bosch e-bikes. It works with pretty much any Bosch e-bike, although only certain bikes might specifically come with it. It is retrofittable to pretty much any bike out there. Although some of the functions, like they have this special lock function and the function that you can adjust the different ride characteristics. I'm not sure if those will work with all different motors. This bike that I'm testing it on today is the Riese and Müller Load. It has the Generation 4 Bosch motor on it, specifically the speed motor. It says cargo line speed, but this is the speed version. I'm really excited about this display. It's really my personal favorite. Let's talk some more about that. This is the Bosch Nyon display. Similar functionality to the original Nyon display. It's slightly smaller, I think, or just a little bit of a different footprint. The original Nyon display was kind of more this like landscape mode, where this is more of a portrait mode. And it's one of the larger displays. It's 3.2 inches going diagonal here, as most screens are generally measured. It's touchscreen, which is one of the, well, really the only display on the market from Bosch that is touchscreen, so you can cycle through all these different functions. As you see, it's not on the bike right now, but you can still get all the details that are available. It has the ability to connect via Bluetooth or Wi-Fi. There's an app that's available for Apple as well as Android. And you can see with these different screens, you have navigation. The navigation is available, and you can search for destinations on the display, but you can also import different routes. You can use specifically the GPX format, or you can import routes from another app called Komoot. And the other thing is, which is pretty cool, is you can actually export this data to Strava as well, which is something interesting to some people. You can see that it's showing your altitude, average speed, trip time, trip distance, and then you have this, and you have all these settings. Right now it's connected to my eBikeConnect app. That's the phone app that you'll use, which you can also use a desktop app as well on their website, eBikeConnect.com. And with that, you can select routes, you can export data into different cycling apps, that sort of thing. So you don't need to specifically use your phone. I think this is one of the reasons that people might appreciate this display in comparison to something like the smartphone hub, is like you can just use this independent of your phone. But if you do pair it with your phone, you can get access to other features on the fly. Like one of the things you can actually use right now, I have this connected to my phone hotspot, so I can download maps, I can sync my device data to this, and you can make all sorts of different changes. So let's mount it on the bike, and we can show a little bit deeper into the different functionality of it and how that all works actually on the bike here. So this part just kind of clips in here. Put the bottom in first, and then just place it down. You want to hear that audible click. I gotta say, I really appreciate that little click noise you get there. You know that it's firmly seated. It's kind of similar to the battery, that when you clip it in, it just really, you feel it there. But we just turn it on. I think if it wasn't on for a little while, it'll like say Nyon when it turns on. But I guess I appreciate, actually, that's one of the things that a lot of people were mentioning from the previous Nyon, that the startup time kind of took a little bit, but this, it's pretty much instantaneous. Now, currently, I do have this connected to my phone. I have it connected to my phone both via Wi-Fi as well as Bluetooth. Now, if you have it connected with just Bluetooth, I don't know that you can use all of the same sync functionality. Actually, this Wi-Fi, not sure. Let's turn it back on. So these are the default screens. You have this like setting screen, the speed here. I should note that I'm controlling this from the thumb pad, but you can also control it with your finger, which is kind of cool, something unique to this display specifically. You have your miles per hour up here, so I guess if you cycle to a different screen where it doesn't have the miles per hour specifically listed, it'll show up here. That's actually one of the regulations in Europe for speed pedelecs, which this is compatible with all Bosch systems, all Bosch configurations, I should say. But one of the things, actually, the smartphone hub is not compatible with speed pedelecs because it doesn't, certain screens, it doesn't show the speedometer, but this one it does, so it's kind of a cool thing. You have the clock, which I say is in military time. I know the Europeans don't really like that so much, but, or 24-hour time format. I call it military time, whatever. This will show you your assistance level, and you'll note that as you change the assistance level, it also changes the color of the screen, which is kind of cool. So Eco, Tour, Sport, and Turbo mode. You'll see that the light is on. This particular bike, the light is on all the time. Again, this is a speed bike, so that's kind of the regulation there. And then they have this battery percentage. This is cool. Altitude, you don't usually have that on displays, but this one has it specifically, which is pretty nice. This, we have the navigation screen. As you ride the bike, it actually go into a little bit closer. Right now it's just showing the route, but I can actually select some different routes that I specifically used before. So these actually I had programmed inside the eBikeConnect app, so I did it through my laptop, but you can also do it through your phone. I'll show the app in just a moment, but I just wanted to give a bit of an overview of these different things here. So these are just routes that I specifically selected and programmed in. So if I said propel to downtown LA, I can select that, and it'll just take a minute to load up. I should note that when you program these in on the computer or on your phone, you have to sync them first before you can use them on the display. So if you're not connected via Wi-Fi or anything like that, it won't actually work. Now, you might note here you have this little warning label with the battery. What this is actually telling me is that I don't have enough battery to make this route. Now, I just have a couple of random batteries on this bike, and they're smaller in size. So in turbo mode, it will tell me I can't go there. But actually, if I take it down to eco mode, it's still a little bit small. But let's just go choose a shorter route. And you see that goes away. But actually, if we go to sport or turbo mode, you can see this comes up. Interesting thing here as well. So 9.8 miles. 500 feet of climbing in 32 minutes. I guess the minutes, it's interesting that the minutes don't change based on the assist level, because from my experience, actually, if I go faster, I would think that the minutes might change, but maybe that might update as you ride. I'm not really sure. You do have these options to change the path. So you have like the shortest route, the most scenic route, some of these different things like that. This will show you the altitude graph. And then I say, okay, you know what, this is the route that I want to take. Just hit go, and then it's going to give me this turn-by-turn direction. One of the nice things also with this is you get this like audible notice when you have a turn coming up. I'll show a little bit of footage of me riding with it so you can give an idea of how that looks when you're riding along. But again, when you're in this screen, you can change it from, right now it's in 3D mode, but you can change to 2D mode. And again, this will tell you, I guess the green tells you you're good to go. One thing you can do is actually, through the app, you can program in that the route is like a round trip route or not. This one, I just have it as a one-way. So when you plan your route, you can choose either the fastest route, you can choose the scenic route, or you can choose the shortest route. And that's just going to vary a little bit in where it will take you. It might change the distance that you go. I think the short and fast happen to be the same this time, but the scenic route is slightly different, which is kind of cool. You can see the altitude graph along your way, which is pretty nice. And then you can just select the arrow button there, and that'll get you into your navigation. So I'll show that a little bit more, how that route works, but you see you have these settings. We'll just exit out of that. And I think that's mostly what I wanted to show on the navigation. I'll show a little bit more when I show the app as well. You can see how you can program in routes, all that sort of stuff. But let's just look at the rest of the screens. As I cycle through to the right, you'll see this other screen. So you could see riding mode usage, which is kind of cool. So I guess it tells you, depending on which riding mode you use, it tells you how much you've used of that, which I don't really use Eco at all. Apparently I don't use Tour very much either. A little bit of support, but mostly turbo, and it's actually not all that uncommon from what I understand, but certainly some people are riding more in Eco. I'm riding more for transportation, you know, taking this to the store, different things like that, so I end up just want to get there fast. I'm always like the idea that I'm going faster than a car can get someplace. Makes me feel good about my decision to take a bike. I know I shouldn't always be in a race like that, but that's sometimes how I think. So max speed, this is basically since it was last reset, it's going to show the max speed and the ascend. This is just basically like some of the last riding modes and settings from the last trip, not necessarily the overall life of the bike, I should say. But this is really cool. I like this, like how much percentage I'm working and how much percentage the engine is working here. That's one of the screens, which you can actually change the screens. That's another cool setting. So we'll get into a little bit more of the settings. Like I was here and then I just go to the right and it just loops around. So on this screen, this is where you would get into the settings, but you can also change the screens. We'll just look at that briefly. So you can add or remove screens. So this screen is currently in the mix here. This one is as well as this one and this one. But if you wanted to add a predefined screen, say I want to add a fitness screen, or let's just see what these things look like. So fitness screen, I can add that one if I want it. It's a predefined screen, and I don't believe that I have this on here. I also don't have a heart rate monitor to show today, but you can see that. I mean, I think, hey, why not? Let's just add it in here. Let's add another predefined screen, e-mountain bike screen. That's kind of cool. Let's do that. And a blank screen. I guess with that blank screen, we can edit it. What do we want to add to that screen? You don't add. Oh, yeah, here we go. That's pretty cool. So if you want to see like specific items on the screen, you can say, okay, I want one of them to be speed. Or maybe, I think I want this one to be speed. That would be cooler. Have like the big speed one. Keep on hitting the wrong button here, but I'm learning with you guys here. Hope you appreciate that. So oh, that's how it works. Okay. So that's kind of interesting. Let's see what we can add on here. So add distance to destination. I like that. Time to destination. Actually, that was one of the things I was wondering before. Fitness. Let's see. My power, the bike's power. I think that maybe is that what shows there. That's kind of cool. Kind of wonder if that one big one on the bottom could just be like something. Yeah. Oh, it has an E-shift screen as well. I think a lot of people with like roll off or something like that will appreciate that. Maximum of tiles reached. Oh, that's too bad. But yeah, you can see there's just loads of settings here. I just want to look at the last like system settings, because the system tiles here, that's kind of cool. You have like all these different options. I guess these are those wider screens that you can add to the bottom if you wanted to. E-shift, that'll be really helpful for people that have roll-off or something like that that want that bigger screen, see what's going on. I know that was a complaint to a lot of people. They have roll-off and they can't really see what gear they're in so easily. You can see that pretty easily. Range. Even the shift recommendation, I think that could be really helpful as well. Just for a traditional derailleur. I don't know, that's what I'm not sure actually, if that's a regular derailleur. I'm gonna leave that, actually see when I'm riding if that is the case. But yeah, this is just kind of random stuff I threw in here, but you can get the gist. I'm gonna just remove one of these. I just wanna see one more time, make sure that we go over all these settings. So you have all the speed related stuff, trip related stuff, max slope percentage. I mean, it's really got all the detail you could want, your location, destination, etc. Your cadence. That's really helpful for, people that want this, like, health related stuff. I mean, the heart rate is really nice, and to have those customized different screens. My torque, that's kind of cool. I think that's it. That's like the customized, that's your own like special screen, not using like the predefined ones. But you saw what the predefined ones are. The blank screen, you can set up your own. If you wanted to remove a screen, like say I wanted to remove one of these, you can just hit the X there, and that will remove it. I'm not going to remove that one. I'm just going to leave it in there. I think that's pretty cool. Not really sure. I guess this one, maybe that's what enables you to move this thing. Yeah, that's kind of cool. So if you wanted to move where the screen is located, you don't want to just like redo it over again, that's what that button does. As I said, I'm just kind of learning this with you guys, but it seems pretty intuitive. So that's the screens. You have the design, which basically you can just change it from light mode to dark mode. Right now it's in light mode. I like the dark mode. I think that's kind of cool. Yeah, brightness. Right now it's in automatic brightness, but you can actually change to the different settings there. I think I'll just leave it in automatic mode. I think that's cool. You can turn off Wi-Fi, turn off Bluetooth here just by clicking those. It'll just do that really quickly. And then you can get into the settings mode. I think we'll get into the settings. So here we have the settings. You have map settings. One thing I should note in relation to this, I was talking about maps before. In the map settings, wherever you're going to be riding, you generally want to get your offline maps set up. So right now I'm in California. Previously I added California in. If you're riding in a different state, you'll want to add your state in beforehand, and that's going to make it, function properly. I think if you don't have it set up and you don't have like a good Wi-Fi signal, then I don't think the maps will actually work so well. You can get like specific countries in here as well, but I just put California in for now. But you have all different states and regions set up like that. This is the map style. It's the default map style, but you can change it on the fly as well. Turn by turn indicator, enabled or disabled. Map orientation, you can have a driving direction or north orientation. We'll leave it in the driving direction. So the last setting in the map setting specifically is the volume. This is basically, you just get this little audible beep, if you will, while when a turn comes up or that sort of thing. So you can adjust the volume of that specifically, because otherwise actually the display doesn't make too many other noises, which I don't think it really needs to. But I do really appreciate that little warning you get when you got a turn coming up, though. It's nice to have that option. If you go into My eBike, you can reset the trip data. You can do an automatic trip reset, which happens once a day, or you can program, I guess you just have a couple different options. Change it off or unmoved for 4 hours. You can reset the range. As some of you guys might know from previous displays, works just the same, that your range is going to be calculated for your last mile or two of riding. So that's kind of cool. This is a special detail that you'll find only on the Nyon. Well, I guess the previous Nyon had it as well, but you have riding modes. This is pretty cool. So you have the standard riding modes, which is what all the bikes have, and then you have these custom riding modes. And the custom riding modes you would program specifically in your eBikeConnect app. You can do that on your phone or through the web application. Well, it's not a web application, it's just their website actually. So I guess I might as well just peek into that real quick while we're here. I mean, so the custom riding modes, if I turn this on, then the four different modes that we're riding, it will show. Oh, come on. There we go. So you can see mode 1, 2, etc. I was just playing with this before, but we can see just if we look at my e-bike, and right now I just have this bike connected to my eBike Connect app. I have 2 of these extra functions added into the app. One is the lock feature, the other is custom riding modes. And I was just messing with this because this is kind of strange to me that it was like, whoa, from 0 miles per hour, you can get full 340% assistance. That's pretty intense. I rode with that a little bit. You get a lot of assistance. Anybody's have any trouble, like they want this extra boost off the line or whatever, I probably wouldn't put it in mode 1 because you should keep in mind that I guess these different lines here, this is like the normal mode 1. I'm kind of not that great at coloring in the lines here, but you know, I'm trying. But this is the normal mode 1 because when you switch to the custom riding modes, you only have the custom riding mode. So you can use like the default riding modes, which I'm not really sure if this is it, but basically, yeah, you see you get that top assistance level. And then sometimes people want like more assistance all the way to the top level of 28 miles an hour. That's something you can do here, or 20 miles an hour or 15 miles an hour, whatever your bike might be limited to. But I think that's kind of nice. So you can go to 27.3 before it starts dropping off. So it might be pretty easy to maintain that top level of assistance there. But yeah, I should note that once you do this, you do have to sync this to the Nyon. So I hit OK, but currently this is not synced. And although I am connected via Bluetooth, I think that the syncing, usually you have this like button activated. I think that I'd have to turn the Wi-Fi on to make this connection. Sometimes it does take a little while. That's why I found like the Wi-Fi or the Bluetooth connection. So you got to be like patient with that. Usually I like to like set all these things up before I go for a ride. Although you can make some of these changes like on the fly. It's connected now and it's synced already. So now that it's connected to Wi-Fi, it can sync. I don't think that it syncs naturally just through Bluetooth. So, but you can see, if it doesn't do like the sync automatic, you can just like click this button. But right now I'm just connected to my Wi-Fi hotspot. But I'm just gonna go back to the normal, riding modes. But you can see how that works. It's pretty cool. I think a lot of people are gonna really appreciate that. I think with that, you can also program, sometimes people want some assistance level somewhere between like eco and tour mode. You can program it exactly how you want. Or maybe you have like a cargo line motor and you want a little bit different riding characteristics there. You can do that. I mean, the cargo line motor goes up to 400% assistance. So in theory, you could get even more assistance than the standard, CX or high speed. But yeah, we're getting into the weeds there. I'll try to refrain from too many tangents there. So the altitude calibration, this is kind of cool. I don't really know too much about this, but I guess you can manually calibrate the altitude if you want to say, what your elevation is. I'm going to leave it on automatic because I don't really know what that is. I guess I could probably get it on my phone or something. Wheel circumference, yeah, again, something that not really too important, but you can program in your wheel circumference. This is basically just if you change your tires or something like that. But you should really note that this is not going to change your speed. It just changes the display speed. So for those of you who think that you're going to like trick the system by changing your wheel circumference, it's not that. And then the e-bike components, you can see the different software version, all that sort of stuff. Kind of cool. Yeah, as I say, I have some, well, it doesn't show power packs, but 2 power packs on here. If you had just one, it would just show one. And that's my e-bike. We went into the screen management before. This is just another way to get into that. So then we have the connections. You have the Bluetooth as well as Wi-Fi connections. So you can go and find it. It picks up a lot of different Bluetooth stuff. But if you, right now, I think that would be connected on the trusted devices. But what I did find, sometimes I use this, but there's really to pair your device via Bluetooth. What I usually use is, or what I usually do is I open up the app, and when I turn the screen on, you just hold the light button down for like 5 seconds and it will pair to your phone. So yeah. And then Wi-Fi, I showed that a little bit before, but right now I'm connected through the hotspot there. So that's how that works. And outside of that, you have the connections. My profile, it shows just when the data is last synced. You can log out or log in. I guess basically this device is logged in. As I said before, you don't necessarily need to use a phone app to connect here. You can just connect everything through Wi-Fi. So say you didn't want to use your phone, you wanted to leave your phone at home or whatever the case may be, you can do that. And you can just log in via Wi-Fi, get all your data in here, and then you can use the bike accordingly. Again, that's my eBikeConnect profile that it was logged into. Then you have some of the system settings, changes the daylight savings time stuff, time zone, dark background, light background. So the other button has that option as well, imperial units or the standard, and then you could reset it. You have the frequently asked questions, which just basically opens up this little barcode scanner. Hopefully we should address most of those questions here today. The introduction to Nyon, this is kind of cool. Just has like little like walkthrough screens which will show you how all these things work. So you have the plus and minus, just the riding modes. Should go over that. Then so you can hit the plus or minus. If you want, you can cycle through to the next screen, show you the right and left button. Then you have the confirm button here, show the riding modes. I think I pretty much went over all this, but you can see this is kind of cool. This is something you'll only find on the Nyon and the kiosk display. That you show the engine assistance and then your assistance. I think that that's kind of a nice function. So you can see how much you're working, how much the motor's working. You can add these quick menu items. See, I didn't add any of that in yet, but let's see if that comes up. Status screen. I think we've seen that. Map screen, screen management. We went through that. eBikeConnect. I'll show you guys that in a little bit. Finish the introduction. Okay, just get back into the settings. This is a bit of a long video. It's a complex display. If you want to click to any of the different points of the video, we'll have at the bottom here, the little time code. So you can just click if you want to see specific aspects of the display. So that's the system settings, information. You have the introduction to Nyon. So you get the navigation, screen management. I think we went over pretty much all that stuff, so I'm not going to get too much more into that. Certificates, it's not really, I guess basically they just show you that it has all these different certifications. I should note that also in the US specifically, they also have the UL certificate, which is something that's kind of special to Bosch specifically. You can see it actually on the underside of the display. You could see under here the UL, Underwriting Laboratories. They also have the CE, but specifically in the US, the UL is what's specifically relevant and important. So all Bosch products in the US, they get this UL certification. And that means that it's just basically tested. It's safe for use, and you could feel pretty safe using it. And I think that that's a really big deal. I mean, it's specifically related to electronics, but I appreciate they go to this extra step to make sure all their stuff is UL listed. I think that's a big deal because there's not any specific regulation in the U.S. requiring them to do that, but the thing is, they're a pretty big company, and I think part of it is probably to cover themselves, but part of it also is that they believe that that's the right thing. The way it was described to me is that they basically do whatever the safest regulation is in that specific jurisdiction. So whatever regulations they have. So that's it on the license information. I think that's most of the custom settings, that sort of thing. We can see that Wi-Fi is disconnected right now. And right now it shows this little key for the lock. So I guess basically I have on my Ebike Connect app the lock function. So I can specifically lock the bike when I remove the display. But I think this is probably a good time as any to go over the Ebike Connect app and show what those functions are. So the bike's on, and it doesn't need to be on to use the app. But let's pick this up. So you open up the app. By default, this is what you get. I don't use this app all that much. I kind of just started using it pretty recently, so I don't have too much data on here. But you come into here, it's going to show you like all of your information as far as how much you rode this month or different things like that. Actually, I think even some of the stuff was reset from here because I was trying to get set up previously with like a sample display, but this is the production one. So I don't know if it's saving all this stuff, but it is what it is. But you see we're connected here. You can compare like different months and stuff like that. It's pretty cool. And yeah, so we can go. We did a lot of riding in this one little area around the shop. It's pretty funny. But you can see we didn't go very far. But yeah, but you can see all the data that is available here. It's pretty cool. I guess mostly off. I think I was just riding to the store, or I don't know what happened. I think I went back to do an update. Whatever. There's a lot going on here. A little bit like my life. Okay. Activities. We can see that weird activity that happened a couple of times. Let's see something that I actually like rode a little bit at least. This one I went 1.42 miles. It's like real extreme fitness goals I have here, you know. But, you know, basically went from the store and rode around and went to my house, and I don't know if that's like, is that where my house is? Whatever. You guys don't want to know where my house is, do you? Yeah, so this is 1.42 miles, 14 minutes. You can see all the different data, like how far up I went, how far down I went, my average cadence, the bike that I'm riding, which you can program in whatever your own bike. You could see as you're riding the different altitude. As you're riding, you could see what speed you had in different regions. I mean, really, just like as much information as you want. Your cadence, power, etc. Really pretty cool. I guess I could see myself getting into this. I don't really know. Personally, I will say, like, I just like riding my bike to get places. I don't really get into this stuff so much. I know some people really love it, and I'm sure a lot of people are really going to love this stuff. It's just not what I do specifically, but that's okay. I still really appreciate the navigation, though. That's something for me specifically that's like major thumbs up, and the ability to go for a ride, have the navigation, but not have to look at my phone or like get distracted by that. I could just focus on my ride. I think that's pretty cool. I've spoken to a lot of people about that, actually, like the idea of just like totally separating from their device while you're riding. That kind of gives you more of that ability, which is nice. So yeah, the map, you can go in here. Normally your search history will show up here, but I think I didn't have much search history, but I'm just gonna program in a random place. Like I'll put in say Los Angeles. Let's see if I could spell right. Let's just go to Los Angeles. I don't know where it's going to bring me in Los Angeles, but we're just going to go to Los Angeles. I mean, Long Beach, going to Los Angeles, where you can see fast, again, scenic, short route. You can see where it will take you. Scenic route. Kind of a little interesting. I think that if I was going to LA, I'd probably take the LA River Trail. So I might want to like change that somehow. Not sure how I can do that. But yeah, it's interesting that this is a bike path, but it's probably just not necessarily the route specifically that I would choose. But if I did program this on my computer, I can select the route, program in the route. You can also use other apps to program your routes and import it in. So that's kind of cool. And it will automatically like update as you ride as well. But if you want, you can save this and say, okay, this is my, right now I'm near the Catalina Express ferry to LA. There we go. Program that in. And then I save the route, but the route might not necessarily show up in my Nyon right away. You can see, how do I send my routes to the Nyon? Save the route, ensure your Nyon is connected via Bluetooth or Wi-Fi. Tap the sync button. After sync is complete, you'll access the route. So right now, I guess I'm not connected right now. Let's see. Actually, let's see. So if I go, have the map, and I go into my e-bike, and if I hold this button, the light button, that's what it gives me, this like thing to connect. I think I did like this whole software update and everything like that since the last time that I used this, so maybe I have to like resync it. So I think that's kind of cool to show anyway. So basically, like if you have the device connected, because actually if I had this connected to Wi-Fi, this could connect independently to my eBikeConnect app, or alternatively I could connect it directly to my device through Bluetooth. Right now it's not connected. I actually just removed it from my device just to show you guys what it looks like to connect it. So I'm just gonna hold the light button down for about 5 seconds. It's gonna come up with this like, get connected via smartphone. Okay, follow the instructions on the eBikeConnect app. So if I go to the eBikeConnect app, add a new e-bike device, scroll over to the Nyon, and then I hit add, then it's gonna like take a couple seconds, and it should show to pair this device here. Okay, so it's gonna show here, this is the Bluetooth device. You can actually see it here, B350-D6C. A little dyslexic there. All right. Hit pair. Usually just takes a couple seconds there. Sometimes it takes a second for the Bluetooth device to show up, but then once it shows up, it should be good. So pair, okay, logged in, hit finish. Okay, we're connected now, and now you can see my phone battery here is connected. It synced already, so in theory I should have that route that I just made before, which is kind of cool. So I can go here, eventually get to this navigation screen. I hit the search button, it can go to routes, and Catalina Express to LA. There we go, it's in here. Click on that there. Probably don't have enough battery to get there, or maybe I can. Eco mode, I can get there in off mode, that's no problem. Eco mode, yeah. Well, that's a long ride, and these batteries are not charged that much, so I have done that ride before. It certainly is possible, and I've done it not on this bike, but the older version of this bike. Whatever. Tangent again. Let's keep on going. All right. So you can see now it's connected, and if I make changes, if I change like your riding modes or something like that, it will sync like more quickly because it's connected via Bluetooth. So I just like change that mode, hit OK, and if I go back to the settings, so you could see it just synced, like, and you could go back to that. You could hit the sync button, and it just does it pretty instantaneous. So yeah, the lock feature, I mentioned that before. I should note that the custom riding mode as well as the lock feature, both of those are paid items. So basically, if you want, you can say, might not be so easy to read this, but it says, when enabled, the e-bike motor will only provide support if your onboard computer is attached to the bike. So you can turn this on, and basically I'm saying that I only want this bike to work with this Nyon display. If somebody tries to put a different Nyon display on, it's not going to work. And basically the only way to disable this is like you need the, I think you could do it with the Bosch, the dealer Bosch software. But basically the idea is to prevent theft, and kind of more or less like brick this bike. It's not functional without that. So I'm just going to turn this off because I don't really know what's going to happen with this display and this bike after this. So I don't want to forget about that. That is one thing that's a little weird. If you're like connect this app and this display, then you try to connect another one, it might give you trouble. So just be mindful of that with the lock feature. Okay, I think that's more or less what I wanted to get into here. Yeah, you could see in the app you can also for some reason it's not allowing me to change the name of the bike. I know you can do that. Maybe you can just do it when you add the bike, or you can do it on the computer, but you can change the name. I wrote Load before. I think Riese and Müller might have been in there already, but I wrote Load, so that is something that's possible. This, if you didn't already own the custom riding modes and the premium lock function, you would have to purchase them. I think it's worth it. I think it's like $2 a piece or something like that. It's not a lot of money, but yeah, it would just purchase it like through an in-app purchase, basically how that works. Settings. This is an important detail. So my profile, I don't think this is my birthday. You want to send me a present? That's it right there. I'm not 6 foot. I'm like more like 5'9", so I'm gonna change that. I don't know where that came from. All the rest of that stuff is more or less correct, I think. Store personal health data. That, some people might be concerned about that. I'm not that concerned about it. It's not that much data to store, but hey. Store geolocation data. You can, change all this stuff if you want for social. This is, you can share the information on social media channels, Strava, etc. Yeah, I guess if you want, you can give data to Bosch as far as diagnostic purposes, etc. Show how to make things better. I think that's actually kind of interesting. I'd be interested to see how that stuff works longer term, like, sharing the data from the previous Nyon, the kiosks, all that sort of thing. I think generally speaking, the data, when you plug in the bike into the diagnostic software as a dealer, that data doesn't get shared with Bosch. But I guess if you have this diagnose and use, you can turn this on, and Bosch could potentially improve their system based on their rider data. They can see how people are using the bikes and that sort of thing. I think that's pretty cool. So it could be interesting to see how products develop in the future based on user data. Komoot. I think this is more commonly used in Germany. I don't have all these many apps or whatever, but I purchased some of these apps so I can show you guys how they work. But basically, this is an app which is used a lot for like hiking and that sort of thing. You have like trail data, because a lot of times maps, they might not show you so much information when you go off-road, but with this one there's more detail on that. You can also connect Strava, but it's not connected like in this way. It's more the other way, where the eBikeConnect data pushes to Strava, where here actually the Komoot data can push into the eBikeConnect app. And I think that's mostly done on the website application, where you can program in a route, select a route on Komoot, and then import it into your Nyon display. I should also note you can do the same thing with the kiosk display as well, which is kind of cool. And then use mobile data for activity syncing, etc. So if you're connected just through Bluetooth, this is not for the hotspot thing specifically. This is if you're connected via Bluetooth, you can use your mobile data to send information back and forth, that sort of thing. And then offline maps, you can add the offline maps to your phone. So you have the offline map on the phone as well as the device. That's really, from my perspective, recommended, would be preferred. And you have the log out at the bottom. But yeah, I think most of the other sort of stuff not really all that important. You can add multiple bikes. That's no problem. And then again, you have the map data, and you can see all your historic activity. Most of these things, I think it was just messing around with this stuff, so not too much there. Just to show you what this looks like, but basically you can record routes, you can plan a new route. Again, if you plan a route on here, you can use your current location. I'm gonna go to Topanga State Park. It's a bit of a ride, but I can save this. If I save this on here, then I can go through the eBikeConnect app, and I can import this from Komoot into the eBikeConnect system, which is pretty cool, and that's nice. The other thing, I think some people had asked, like, can you get the data from here into Apple Health or that sort of thing, or can I use, what sort of devices can connect here? That was a question that came up. So you can't directly connect to Apple Health. However, you can connect to, or you can export the data into Strava, and Strava can connect the data into Apple Health. So that might be something that you want to do. You can't use your Apple Watch for the heart rate monitor. If you wanted to use a heart rate monitor, it needs to be a device that can connect directly to the Nyon, whereas the Apple Watch connects through the phone, so it just connects directly to the phone, and it doesn't have that sort of interface. So that's something to be mindful of. If you wanted to add the heart rate monitor, you want one that will connect directly, and that's usually maybe something like a Fitbit, or Garmin has some different ones, that sort of thing. So something to be mindful of. I don't have one specifically to show you, but that's basically how that works. You can connect that. I think that's really nice. Oh, you know what? I'm just going to go through just a couple more things. Just when you thought it was over. I mean, it's a long video, but just a few more items, right? I think these are particularly relevant questions that come up a lot. That's really what I want to just go over. Frequently asked questions. You have the power button down here, the light button. This bike, the light happens to be always on, but if your light is programmable, you can select it there. You noticed before that I had the display on when it's off the bike. That is something that with a lot of Bosch displays, you can have that function. It will show you like the last data. I guess because it was interesting that it updated the altitude. Some of this data it's not reading from the motor. The motor is generally the brain of the system. That's where most of this information is stored. Although with the Nyon, it does have internal memory that will store some of this information and be able to transmit as well. All right, well, thanks for sticking with me, guys. I think I just want to do a little bit of riding footage, show you guys the online application, the eBikeConnect app, as well as just a couple more frequently asked questions, and we'll wrap it up. So it was a long video, but hope you guys enjoy. All right, so I'm set up on the bike. I'm gonna turn the system on, and we could see the different screens. I'm gonna use the navigation because I think that we should show that. So I just go to this little search icon here, and then I'm just gonna hit work. I think I have that programmed in. There we go. Hit start. And yeah, we got the little audible notice. Put the assistance level on. And here we go. Try the different assistance levels. But you can see how the navigation is working here. Pretty straightforward, pretty intuitive. It's cool. I like that it's taking me on a bike path here. I'm going to show some of the different screens so you can see what's going on here. Power, cadence. We're not going to see the heart rate monitor because I don't have a heart rate monitor connected. 0.3 miles to destination. That's kind of cool. Maybe we could see that updating. There's a bunch of construction over here, so I would expect that some of these routes might not be fully updated, but you can see how many feet until we get to our destination. I think that showed most of the screens that I wanted to show here. Get back to the store. All right, guys. Well, I'm gonna take this inside and show you a little bit more the web application. All right, guys, we're back at the shop. I just wanted to show you a couple things. I know a couple people are just wondering comparisons of the different displays, like the Intuvia compared to the Nyon display. So like this is the Intuvia display. You don't have all the information here, but you can get a general gist of the size of this here. This is the Nyon display next to it. So a little bit larger than the Intuvia display. It's not quite as large as the older Nyon display. This is the older one, which again, as I mentioned before, has this like more landscape mode, where this is a little bit more of like a portrait style. And this also had a couple more buttons because it wasn't touchscreen. This one, because it's touchscreen, you have less. This is, I think, what people were talking about, slightly longer startup mode. The battery would be flat soon. You could tell this was like some English people wrote this or something like that. They don't use flat in America so much. Dead, I guess that's what you usually say. Battery would be dead. But you can get a general gist there of the size. So looks like maybe it's slightly smaller in comparison, but maybe they're using the real estate more effectively on the new display. Definitely a bit smaller than the kiosk display, but as Bosch describes, like the kiosk display is specifically made for really sporty riding, made to be a bit smaller. This is still great for sporty riding. I should note, I mentioned this before. I think it has the same type of Gorilla Glass. It's really pretty durable. It seems pretty heavy duty. I did drop it once. I didn't feel like that concerned. It didn't show any like marking or anything from being dropped, which is nice. I tend to be a bit clumsy at times, so I appreciate that. Yeah, the one other display I don't have here because it's hardwired into the bike is the Purion display, but the Purion is kind of more like this size, actually. The Purion as well as the smartphone hub. Two displays, I should have said. So I wanted to show you guys the eBikeConnect app and then go into some final like frequently asked questions. They have loads of them on the Bosch eBike website, but I think it's always cool just to like go through them, talk through them. So this is the eBikeConnect website. And let's just dig into what the features are here. This is the eBikeConnect app. It's pretty much the same as the phone app, but you have some additional functions. So I'm not going to get too deep into it. As I said, most of the functions are pretty similar to what we went over on the phone app. But if you log in, you're going to come into this dashboard. You can see this additional information. One of the things to note specifically, you have all these different rides that we went on, and you can see the different routes. You can build a route on here. This is a little bit different than the way that it's set up on the phone, but we can click like work to start out, and then I can do, maybe I'll do Santa Monica just as a little test, and just so you can see what that looks like there. It takes a little bit longer for like the longer routes, and then you have fast, Scenic. You could see the slight changes there. See how that looks. As I said before, you can plan it as a round trip. So you could do all sorts of stuff there. And then you would enter the route name, and then once you enter the name, you can save it and then sync it with your Nyon display. But we're not going to do that right now. We don't need to do that. The one thing that this is specifically available on here is the import a GPX track. So you can create a GPX track on the Komoot app, but there's other applications that you can use as well. I had imported these other routes from Komoot, you can see here, and that's an option, which is something that specifically need to do on the eBikeConnect website. You can't do that on your phone, or at least as far as I understand it. Then you have your activities. So this is one cool thing with the activities. You can take the activity and you can export this as a GPX app. You can export it to Strava. As I mentioned before, this is the one thing, if you wanted to, you can export your rides to Strava. That's something that is specifically done on the website, not in the eBikeConnect app. I'm not sure if it's different on the Android app. I only have the iPhone app, but that's a function that's special here specifically. And then you have the My eBike, just shows like different information on your bike specifically, the display. You might have noticed that there's 3 batteries on here. I connected random different batteries in the shop to the bike, so I guess it somehow registered them as together. Shows the last time the device was synced there. You can add additional bikes here. See, this is here where you can change the name of the bike. Kind of cool. And then you can also go on here and change the riding modes, but you can do that through the app as well. But you know, not everybody's necessarily going to want to use the app. They might want to just do everything on the website. Well, just clicked on the help here, and yeah, these are, I guess, kind of frequently asked questions that are specific to the eBikeConnect app, that not specific to the Nyon. This is specific to the Nyon, and yeah, talking more about the GPX route, how you can transfer it. So you have to, as I mentioned before, you can import a GPX route into the online portal. There might be specific bike trails that might not show up on Komoot or show up on the eBikeConnect app, but you can import them in here, which is really helpful, I think. So I think that's mostly what I wanted to go over on the online application specifically. And I just wanted to talk just very briefly about the frequently asked questions, because there's a couple of them that I didn't go over specifically, but I think that are pretty helpful. So I think we went over the zoom function on the map. Where do I see residual range in my battery? I think we went over that. How to use the onboard computer as a fitness motivator. That's kind of cool. So I guess it's just telling you that the different screens that you can see, speed, cadence, power, etc. We showed how to customize those screens. Where do the maps come from? The maps specifically come from the OpenStreetMap or OSM format specifically. This is kind of like a more of like an open source map function. So most items are programmed in there, but you might not find all the same things you'll find in like Google Maps or something like that. So just be mindful of that. How do I connect external devices? Search as a heart rate monitor. We could look at that really quickly. And then so they are activated via Bluetooth, and so automatic search takes place in the heart rate monitors when they're within range. And you can adapt to certain screens to show your heart rate specifically. So that's kind of cool if you wanted to do that. Again, just remember, you need a device that could connect directly to the Nyon display. The one thing I didn't show, because we're riding in more of an urban environment, but there's more specifically the MTB route. So if you are specifically near a mountain bike trail, you can select the MTB route specifically. They're unpaved mountain biking trails. We didn't have too many of them over here specifically, so they weren't showing up. This is something that was really interesting to me, how the altitude is measured. Altitude data in the Nyon is based on barometric pressure. So I guess inside the Nyon there's some sort of sensor that can sense the barometric pressure. I mean, that's pretty impressive to me. One thing I should note is that Bosch is like really big into sensors. That's one of the things that they're very advanced at. And so having that sort of data doesn't really surprise me that they're able to gather that. And yeah, I think most of these other things are, we more or less went over. Preset points of interest, custom riding modes, we went over that stuff. Oh, this is a big one. Can I charge my smartphone from the e-bike? And the answer, unfortunately, is no. I don't know if that's going to change. I kind of hope that it does. I talked to some of my tech rep friends at Bosch, and I think what's going on is there's like so much going on inside this display specifically that it's kind of challenging for them to also enable that charging functionality. Maybe they would have to make the display larger or whatever the case may be. I should note that a lot of the newer bikes, they have these like auxiliary ports in the motor. Might be possible that in the future that we're able to like integrate some charging port on the bike. I'm not really sure. I'm a little bit bummed about this one, but you know what? I think I still would say that the Nyon is my favorite display, despite that. And I think that's more or less all the stuff that I want to go over. Selection button, standby mode. Oh, and I think that this standby mode, this is why the startup time is a little bit quicker. So they have, usually takes about 15 seconds to start up, but to shorten the startup time during the day, a standby mode is enabled. So when the standby mode is enabled, you can turn it on and it will just turn on immediately. So it's interesting, at midnight, the Nyon automatically shuts down from standby mode. Kind of a strange bug. It's like a Y2K sort of thing or something. Well, there's a couple other questions not specifically covered here. One of the ones probably most commonly that people are asking is like, can I retrofit this to a bike that I already have? And when are those retrofits going to be available? So yes, you can retrofit it. It can be a little bit complex depending on your bike. So if you have a Purion or an Intuvia display, the retrofit will be a little bit more complex than if you have a smartphone hub or a kiosk display, because the wiring on the kiosk and the smartphone hub are actually the same. So because of that, you wouldn't have to rewire the bike. And many of these bikes, wiring them could be a little bit complex. Also, mounting the display on the bike can be a bit complex or challenging depending on what your handlebar setup is, or if you have like adjustable stem on there or that sort of thing. So I'd be mindful of that. I think it could be a worthwhile upgrade if somebody wants to have some of the additional functionality that exists here. I should note, as I mentioned before, the lock functionality specifically won't be functional on like older Generation 2 motors, but it will work with Gen 3, newer Gen 3 and Gen 4 motors specifically. I think that this will be available in the US towards the end of this year. I don't know about international markets, what the when they're going to be available specifically. I also don't specifically know what the price is. I was trying to get details on that. My suspicion, it's probably going to be somewhere around $500–600. I could be wrong on that, so please don't quote me, but that would just be my guess if I had to, based on what the price is of some of the other displays and what the upgrade for this display is from some of the manufacturers, like usually $250 or somewhere in that area. So that's where I kind of got that speculation. Yeah. So I think that's mostly all that I want to go over for this. You know, there's so much information to cover here. I hope that you guys found this to be useful, and I covered like everything that you might want to know about it. And if you have any specific questions, you know, you can leave them in the comments below. We'll do our best to help you out. There's loads of information on the Bosch website. There's a manual that we'll link to below. And yeah, I look forward to seeing you guys in a future video. If you have any questions, maybe we can cover them in a follow-up video as I get to have a little bit more time with the display specifically. And yeah, hope you enjoy. Thanks again.